Good evening, Springfield. Welcome to the Township of Springfield's Planning Board meeting of September 23rd, 2024. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the sunshine laws. Notice was published on September 5th, 2024 in the local source, which is the official newspaper of the Township of Springfield for 2024, and posted in the Annex Building on September 5th, 2024. Let's do a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. Ms. Law, can we please have a roll call?
Committeeman Rich Huber. Present. Committeeman Alex Kaiser.
Present.
Mr. David Barnett is absent. Ms. Marissa Ruggiero. Here. Mr. Aaron Laufer. Here. Mr. Richard Cedarquist. Here. Mr. Luis Mayo. Here. Mr. Brian Cantagallo.
Here.
Mr. Scott Wishna. Here. Vice Chair Sharon Kessel. Here. And Chair Tiger.
Here. For the record, so David Barnett's the only one absent?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be an excused absence. This was a special meeting that came up in order to accommodate all of our applications before us, so it would be an excused absence. This was somewhat of a short notice for him. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is a resolution. We're going to carry that resolution. We haven't had an opportunity to review it, so we're going to carry it till October 10th in this very room at our next meeting for the resolution for Jersey Mike's PCR Store 17 LLC, application 8-24-S. We have no meeting minutes from last time?
Say that again?
Meeting minutes from last time? Okay, so that's right. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to put on the record is on October 10th, our next meeting, Mr. Mistretta, our board planner, is going to give an overview of what's going on with the master plan and what are next steps and actions that this board has to take. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware. October 10th, Mr. Mistretta is going to do that before the board. And at that same meeting, we'll also form some subcommittees for next year and do requests for RFPs that will go out as well. So with that, we'll take our first application. It's application 10-2024-S, 294 Morris Avenue, Block 206, Lot 3. This is for Kenneth Gruskin. This is for a minor site plan with variances, generator, wall sign, and awnings. So, Counselor, before we get started, I wanted to have Mr. Disco give the board a little bit of an overview because I know that we spent a lot of time this summer working. Mr. Disco, can you give us an overview?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The application you're about to hear is for installation of a generator at the rear of the parking lot. It's in a flood zone, so the generator will be elevated. The applicant has a basement that has been flooded on multiple occasions. They're located adjacent to Duffy's Corner parking lot and the Van Winkle's Brook. And then there's a tributary that it comes off that. So they get hit very hard by that. So the township is encouraging them to install the generator. Top of that, they're going to do a refresh of the facade of the building, and it generates two variances for a number of signs. They have a truncated sign, and they'll show that in exhibits. And then they also are installing awnings on the front of the building, and the awnings by our ordinance have to be, I think it's 8 feet above the ground. These are 6.5 feet due to circumstances on the building, but there's no walkable area or pedestrians accessible to the awnings, so they're going to present that testimony. Those are the three things we're looking at today.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Counselor, do you want to give us a little overview and then call your first witness for some brief testimony?
Yes, thank you. Clara Horelick, appearing on behalf of the applicant owner, the Gruskin Real Estate Group, LLC. And as Mike Disco, the engineer, has indicated, there are a number of variances and waivers, but I just want to put on the record with a little more specifics exactly what they are. So the applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan approval in connection with exterior upgrades to the existing facade at the address that was given. And that is in conjunction with the installation of a new backup electrical generator. Now, the specific things that they're doing, they are putting in an additional ADA parking space, wall signs, awnings, and painting, which has nothing to do with this. The following variances are the ones that are required with regard to these upgrades. Section 3531.8A1, which indicates wall signs in commercial districts, that there can only be one wall sign permitted for each facade facing a public street. In this case, 3 wall signs are being proposed. Section 3530.5B, architectural design standards, the awnings. The awning frame shall be no less than 8 feet above the ground. As proposed here, we have 6 feet, 0.9, and there will be justification given for why that doesn't create an issue. Also, there's a design waiver that's required under the land use ordinance, section 3523.4A. The access aisle width, 24 feet is required, 20.6 feet is proposed for the aisle width that's adjacent to the generator. And this generator, as was stated, is so needed because of the flood zone, but it will be up on a platform that's satisfactory with regard to the flood hazard area. So I would like to call upon Mr. Gruskin, who is not only the applicant owner, but he is also a professional planner, to give testimony. An architect.
So let's qualify.
Sir, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Could you state your full name for the record? Spelling
Kenneth Gruskin, Grus as in Sam, K-I-N.
And, sorry, counsel, you said that he was,
He's the applicant owner, but he's also the professional planner that's going to give the justifications, and he's also an architect by profession.
so,
The
Mr.,
planning part of it is what you can,
as far as your credentials for planning, would you identify those for the board?
Well, my education, I have a bachelor's of architecture from Cornell, a master's from Harvard. I've testified before numerous boards in New Jersey as a professional planner and all over the country as an architect.
Does the board have any questions?
I think our board engineer already outlined a lot of the issues or just some of the justifications for the variance as well. If you could just briefly go over that and then.
Sure.
yeah, Mr. Gruskin will be brief and hit upon each one of them quickly.
I know you've got a anxious applicant behind you. So this building, as most of you are familiar, is the old money store building. And we've owned it since 2003. And the parking in the building has pretty much been this way on the exterior. Sheet A6, these have all been submitted. You can see the
These do
flood.
not have to be marked as exhibits because you have them already submitted.
So in sheet A6, you can see pictures that were taken fairly recently of the flooding in the back. The building actually on the north elevation and the rear of the building where the generators proposed has a flood wall, which has been there. Now, over the years, we've never actually had water breach the flood wall. We've had it close, but we have 9 sumps which have to run continuously. If they stop running within an hour, we'll get an inch of water. And during Sandy, we had feet of water because we didn't have power for days. So the generator will provide backup power to keep the building operational, the pumps, as well as power's been a little sketchy sometimes where we lose it over the summer, keep our servers up and running. So on sheet A2, this is an aerial image of the building. This is Morris Avenue. This is that north site. So that yellow rectangle is where the generator is proposed. By putting it there, it's also screened from view from Morris Avenue. It will be elevated above the base flood elevation, which is 94 feet above sea level. So it's on a platform that also has a size to conform with the building department for OSHA regulations, and it will conform with NJDOT and FEMA requirements. It's going to go in this triangle area that you see striped off in the back here, and I'm
Let me ask
going
a
to,
question. You don't touch any residential, you're back to the,
yes, we're against a commercial landscaper site, municipal lot, and restaurant on the other side.
that's important.
In terms of noise from the generator, it is a 100 kW generator, natural gas. We did order it with the best sound attenuation enclosure. So this is a blow up of this area over here. So the waiver has to do with this existing drive aisle here. All the other drive aisles on the site are over 24 feet. This has been this way since we've moved in, and it's never presented any safety or operational difficulties. But what we've done anyway is we've pushed the generator back so that we do have 24 feet from the edge of the curbing to the face of the platform. However, we don't want to make that the drive aisle, because if we do so, then we'll lose 2 parking spaces because they'll get clipped off. But I just want to point out that the 7 spaces here, people can exit the way they came in. They can exit out this drive aisle on the east side of the building, and we also have a cross connection to the municipal lot. So it doesn't present any practical issues by keeping it the way it is.
And you're within 500 feet of a municipal lot, which allows you that off-track improvement.
Yeah, we're adjacent to the
adjacent.
municipal lot.
1 second, Mike, you agree with the way this is outlined
Yes.
so far? Okay, so
Are-
That covered your aisle width. So now if you would go to the wall signs and the awnings, so
Yes.
that the board can hear that.
So the 2 boards I put up are A7 and A4. So what you're seeing on the bottom of A7 is the building today as it faces Morris Avenue. The rendering on the right shows it with the new paint scheme, some new gutters, but the awnings and the signage. So I'm going to talk about the awnings first. So as you've heard, 8-foot clear is what's required by ordinance, and the reason is safety. They don't want people walking into it, vehicles hitting it, et cetera. But fortunately for us, we have planter beds, which they will be over. So it presents no safety issue to people, vehicles, or anything. The other reason why we need them lower is the window head itself is below 8 feet. And there used to be some great trees out front that used to provide solar shading. They're gone now because they had carpenter ants and whatnot. So this will help make the building more energy efficient, besides the aesthetics of enhancing the front of the building for the downtown.
So simply stated, because of the planters, nobody can walk under these awnings, and nobody can hit it with an umbrella or if they're carrying anything, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, now onto the wall
take a
signs.
step. Mike, you agree? Perfect, go ahead.
Okay, signage. In most simple terms, if we comply with all the requirements for signs on a building except for quantity. Basically, as you can see from the photo on board A7, there is no central area that really allows a sign in the traditional sense. So what we did is we took it and we divided our sign up, so to speak, into 3 parts. And even with that, I want to point out that we're allowed 10% sign area of the facade. Even with our 3 divided up, we're using 4%. So we're 6% under the area we would be allowed. We're also allowed 60% length for the facade. And if you add these 3 together, we're less than 53%. So in that respect, we are not at our maximums.
So is your testimony that the design of the building is existing and that's what's causing the design?
Yes.
Perfect. Mike, you agree? Okay, anything further? Perfect. Any members of the board who have any questions for this witness? Start with Mr. Wishner.
Well, it's the number of signs.
Number of signs.
It's the
There's-
logo.
There's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I like that too.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like, just for him to do this summary part of that we would normally do. So in your opinion, as a professional planner, I would just like you to put on the record that the relief you're requesting will advance the purpose of the municipal land use law, correct?
Yes.
In addition to that, will the relief requested not be a substantial detriment to the public good such that the benefits and the deviations will substantially outweigh any detriments?
Yes.
And finally, the intent and purpose of the zone plan is being met here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Mike, you agree with that testimony as our planner? You're good.
I don't see any negative impact.
Mr. Wishner, you have anything to add now that? Mr. Huber? No? No. I have nothing. Do you have anything? Nothing. Richard? Brian? Okay, and seeing none, I'm going to close this matter and open up to the public for this application. Kenneth Gruskin, 10-2024S. Anyone in the public that wish to speak on this application, please come up. Don't rush up. Seeing none, I'm going to close this matter to the public and open it up to the board. I think the variances were justified by both the planner and our planner and our engineer. Mr. Disco, you could,
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the,
nice aesthetic.
yeah, it's wonderful.
Good,
It's a big improvement.
big improvement. I have a motion on the table? So moved. Okay, can we have a roll call?
Vice Chair Kessel? Yes. Ms. Ruggiero? Yes. Committeeman Huber? Committeeman Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Laufer? Yes. Mr. Cedarquist?
Yes.
Ms. Tameo? Yes. Mr. Cantagallo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel? Oh, I already called you, sorry, and Chairman Tiger.
Can't vote twice.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Work
I'm
with
staying where I am.
Work with council for the next for the, yeah, you can't do that yet. Okay, so the next application is the continuation from our September 12th Planning Board meeting, which is Congregation of Israel of Springfield, 9-2024S. This is 339 to 347 Mountain Avenue, 18 Pitt Road, Block 1801, lots 33 through 36 and 39. This is for preliminary and final site plan, minor subdivision, bulk variances in addition. So let me do some housekeeping things first. First, at the last meeting, we ended with, I think, 2 or 3 things, and I think there's a fourth now. The first thing was for you to come back, and we eliminated a parking spot behind, I believe it's Glazner's property, Lot 40, which we requested a bigger buffer, which then would reduce the impervious coverage. So you were to come back to us with, what is that new impervious coverage? What does that buffer look like, subject to Mr. Disco's approval, was what the board recommended. The third thing, someone talked about construction that was going to be in the next 4 or 5 years, something along the line, to come back to us with a construction plan of a timeframe. And then if the board acted favorably and approved this, there would be, you know, given the location of Mountain and Shunpike, where you have FMG and the high school, construction can begin at 7 o'clock. I think we would look to some sort of agreement to work with our board engineer, if this was approved, that during the heavy construction in the beginning of the site, that you wouldn't start until after school started, and would be cognizant that school gets out 2:15 to 2:45-ish, something like, you know, that time, to avoid major construction. And then eventually, that condition can go away based upon, if that's the case. So those were the issues, I believe. Mr. Disco, Mr. Estrada, those were the issues?
I think you covered the base on it.
Perfect. So maybe if you can have your engineer come up for very briefly, because for the public's plan is, once they have their engineer testify and close out this, we will use this opportunity to finally have some public comment, which is important. It's part of what the board does to kind of make a decision. I know there's some objector attorneys in the audience. The way we will take comments from the public would be the objector attorney first, then we'll go to public comment. So we're going to try to get everyone to speak tonight. The plan is to try to get everyone a reasonable amount of time to speak. So, and we'll go through that as we take out the testimony.
Okay, and before she testifies, I just want to let the board know, based on the list that you just gave, the following. Yes, we eliminated the parking spot. The landscape exhibit that's going to be presented tonight will reflect the change in the impervious coverage and what we did with regard to that landscaping for that particular spot. The construction timeframe is as follows. Once we get permits and a shovel is in the ground, it will be under 2 years. We will comply with all the timeframes to accommodate the schools, the neighbors, who also don't want to wake up to the sound of construction and the like. Obviously, there will be renovations on the inside after that 2-year period, but that will not impact anybody on the outside. So I will now ask to recall my engineer, which is Danielle Lesgrenier from Dynamic Engineering, if you want to swear again, to be able to present what you just asked about.
And then also, would there be construction on Saturday?
No.
No, I mean,
Well, I don't think so. I mean,
okay,
no.
so there would. That's a plus two. That is a plus two. Okay.
You're still under oath, just.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, again. As Ms. Horelik has already stated, the main difference between the plan that we have before you this evening and the one that we showed at the last public meeting is the removal of that parking space in question, which is at the southern corner near Lot 40 and Lot 32. That added an additional 9 feet of depth for landscaping buffer, and we did plant that here with various evergreen shrubs and with trees as well. And that serves as a couple things, obviously the additional buffer to the neighbor, lot 40, and it's also a nice focal point right across from the main double door entry, which is signified by the wider sidewalk area, which obviously allows for the membership to ingress and egress from the congregation for their services. It also ties in nicely to the buffer that's directly adjacent to the shared driveway, which will reiterate, we're not touching as a part of this application. It is outside of the limits of disturbance. The congregation is also not intending to use it for anything. It will solely be used for the residents of Lot 32. And so as a part of this application, we are providing that buffer, which has been on the plan previously, just to kind of separate the two uses of the congregation and residents.
Can you
So that eliminated parking.
testify to the buffer around the properties again for the public, just so that way that's brought up, so it's out?
Yeah, so we are providing a buffer, like I was just mentioned. I'll start and go counterclockwise. Adjacent to Lot 32 and the shared driveway along the southwestern property line is approximately 6 feet of buffer, which has evergreen shrubs and trees, which basically buffer between the head-on parking spaces and that shared driveway. Then around to the corner I was just mentioning, the elimination of that parking space, that's 16 feet of buffer, again, a mix of shrubs and evergreen trees. There's some arborvitae, some holly, which has been recommended by the board professionals. Around the next corner, again, some changes that we've made throughout the course of these public meetings has been to increase the buffer in front of these 5 spaces here. Now they are perpendicular instead of angled, to create a little bit more room for the buffering in front of those. And this is the closest point to where we have improvements to an adjacent property. However, that property is a part of this application and is owned by the congregation. That's Lot 39. Then as we move to the east, we have Lot 38 as the adjacent neighbor. And again, most of the changes that we made over the course of this application have been to remove a parking space that was previously proposed in this area. Now we have a much larger area for buffering that contains trees and shrubs, both evergreen and deciduous. As you move along.
And what is that buffer, and what is that size? That's important. I want the public to know that, so that way when questions come up. Okay, take your time.
That's about 20 feet.
Okay. And what was it previous? Like 2, wasn't it, something like that?
Yes, yeah, it was very close to the curb line.
Okay.
Yeah, here we have the driveway, which the curb line of this driveway is effectively staying in the same place as it is existing. There is a 6-foot fence in this area, which will match the proposed 6-foot fencing otherwise on the site. Again, through the course of these hearings, we also removed another space over here in the southern corner, which is adjacent to Lot 37, and that provides, I would say, more than 10 or 12 feet of additional buffering here, and that supplements the existing trees that are within that area with additional trees, evergreen, and shrubs. We also increased the buffer directly along the southern lot line of the subject property, which is the northwestern lot line of Lot 37. That used to be 1.6 feet wide, which was non-compliant. You're required to have 2 feet of buffer from the parking area to the side lot line. However, we took some recommendations from the board professionals, decreased the width of the drive aisle so that it is now proposed to be 24 feet. Currently today, it is more than 27 feet wide, which is more than the minimum of what's required and isn't really totally necessary to have that extra impervious coverage for any circulation reasons. So we increased the distance between the curb line and Lot 37, and that allowed us to plant a lot more plantings in this area as well.
If you could also tell the board the increase and the decrease, the increase in the actual buffering and the decrease in the lot coverage by percentage.
Sure. The increase in, well, I did
Well,
backwards.
the number of trees, okay, so we know the number of trees originally was X, and now we're at Y, if you could tell the board.
Under the original proposal, which was Rev 0, prior to which we met with the township for our TRC meeting, there were 28 trees as a part of the application. Now we're proposing 40, so that was an increase of 12.
And if you could tell the board the decrease in the impervious coverage as a result of taking away the various parking spaces.
Of course, it was originally proposed to be 76.3%. It is now currently proposed to be 73.4%, which is a decrease of just under 3%, 2.9, which is more than 1,800 square feet.
And if you could also tell the board about the decrease from the TRC meeting to now in the building coverage.
Sure, under the original application, the building was proposed to be matching the existing setback, which was, I'm sorry, excuse me, it was proposed to be violating the setback requirement for the front yard, about 5 feet over what was permitted. So after feedback from the TRC meeting, that encroachment was eliminated, and the building had been brought back, reduced in size by about 500 square feet, which did reduce the proposed building coverage by about that 0.8%, which is the 500 square feet.
And also, if you could let the board know, we've also succeeded in eliminating 2 waivers, correct?
That's correct. Previously, we were proposing that additional space here, which has since been eliminated. That would have proposed 16 spaces all in one row, which is not permitted by the ordinance. So with that elimination of that space, it is back down to 15, which is within the maximum threshold.
Side distance to the property line is the second waiver eliminated.
Yes, which I did mention previously. You're required to have 2 feet within this buffer here to the side lot line, which has now been increased to more than 40.
So the waiver for the sidewalk for the strollers, that remains because that's a necessity to the synagogue, correct?
That remains, and it seems like the intention of the ordinance is for the pedestrian pathway to not exceed that 6 feet. However, in this circumstance, part of that sidewalk area, as is technically referred to, is actually the stroller parking. So the area for the pedestrians to walk is more like 6 feet, I believe, which would be in line with the ordinance intention. However, the stroller parking is immediately adjacent to it, will also be concrete, therefore, that waiver is required.
And finally, with regard to the waivers, the aisle width in the existing parking lot was brought down from the 27 plus to 24 feet.
That's correct.
But in the new parking lot, the driveway, is there still an aisle width waiver?
There's no waiver
No, not the existing, the new.
for here.
Yeah. No,
That is-
as you go down the driveway.
Okay, that is 24 feet also.
That's what I want you to testify to. Okay. So we are good with that.
First, we have to mark that.
Yes,
It's like,
Yes,
it's like
exhibit-
eight,
before I sign.
it's like 8:20, what is it now?
13.
I think 13.
8:13,
Thank you.
okay. So I should have asked you this to confirm before, all your witnesses are here from last time.
They're all here.
Do you have anything further? I just have one question, if you don't have anything further. The lighting, again, I know that we had this from last time, but just so the board, just so the public and the board's aware, any light spillage on the current existing is something that will be done by the end of the year? I think we-
I can answer to that. We've already been investigating that. The congregation will put shields on the poles that are in the existing parking lot, as well as there are lights on the building that have apparently been creating a glare. So that will also be dealt with. We've already consulted with somebody who can do that. So surely by the end of the year, we can take care of it.
And then it's your testimony that any.
And we'll do it sooner if we can.
Yeah, of course. Any lighting in the future, when this is all done, will not spill onto any neighbor's properties whatsoever.
That is the intention of the design, and so is demonstrated on our lighting.
Okay, and then the last thing is, any drainage, all the drainage, I know, and I'll ask Mike again, all the drainage calculations with the impervious coverage, even though you brought it down, more than attenuate the water and will cause, help any of the water on the site.
That's correct. We're exceeding the minimum requirement.
Michael?
They're reducing the runoff flows from the current condition.
Do you agree that it's a benefit that with all the water being contained underground?
It's better than it was before, yes.
Okay, to the board with any questions, if you have nothing further?
No, I'll just reserve the right to make a closing statement after public.
Mr. Wishna? Mr. Huber? No? You have no? No, Alex? No, Rich? Okay, so seeing none, don't go anywhere, because I'm sure people have questions.
Not leaving.
So at this point, we've reached the public portion.
We're also lowering the lights, am I correct, from what it is now?
Yes.
Yes, the poles are going to be lowered from the 20 feet they are now to 14 feet.
Post-construction.
Right, those are not coming down now, they're being shielded until we end up redoing the parking lot.
Okay, perfect. All right,
Just one comment. Turn on your mic closer to you. Just, if it,
Alex watched the videos and.
I did, and there was one I'm looking at, I could barely hear our own professional.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. All right.
Alex, I'm sure you had no trouble hearing me, though.
Hey, you weren't too bad, but Jeff, oh my God.
Loud?
Oh.
All right, so let's take this opportunity. So the way I'd like to do the public comment is, are there any attorneys on behalf of their applicant, on behalf of residents that wish to come up first on this application? Go ahead. Any other ones afterwards? Okay, so then we'll figure out how to do the rest.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Speak in the microphone or Alex gets upset.
How about now? How about now?
That's good.
Okay, good. I'm like one of 5 boys. I usually don't have a problem being heard, sorry. Lawrence Powers, Hogan Longo, Moran, Dunstan, Dukas for the Praisners. That's lot 38, 14 Pitt. Before I do anything, I want to give my congratulations and thanks to the congregation for a lot of the changes that you made to the plan already. Before I came for the first hearing, went over the application with my client. I said, they really need to do these things. And lo and behold, the next time I came to a hearing, most of those things had been done. So I really don't have a lot to delve into tonight, but I want to raise some issues with the board. I did have a couple of questions maybe for Dr. Smilo or the architect, but the first thing I would note is at lot 38, if you see, they put a big buffer behind my client's house, which they're really appreciative of. As soon as you make the turn there on the traffic aisle, there's really no landscaping at all. And my understanding was I spoke to Mr. Mistretta before, that it would be difficult to put any landscaping in that particular location because if you're going to plow snow, it's going to be up against the fence and can't really put a lot there. There's maybe something you could do to screen the top of the fence there so that you get noise and light projecting into my client's yard. I know it might be difficult, but I did tell my client I would raise it. Next thing is the dumpster pad for this addition is right behind my client's house. And I looked at the plan, I don't really see a lot of other places you could put it, but if there's another place to put it, that would be great. If there's not, if there could be some sort of a reasonable restriction as to when the trash pickups could be made. I didn't really hear a lot of testimony about how often, and I might have just missed it, how often there's a trash pickup or how much trash this facility generates. I can't imagine the synagogue generates a lot of trash, but as long as there's some reasonable restriction as to the hours of the pickup, like they're not coming at 6 or 7 in the morning, and like with a big roll-off container, like something like that would certainly be objectionable to my client. Those are the 2 things. My big issue is with respect to the sukkah, and I understand the religious purpose of a sukkah. I understand how it has to be open to the air. I understand all those things, but this is pretty big, and I understand you have a decent-sized congregation. You want to get as many people as you can in there to take your meals together during the season, but I heard testimony that apart from Sukkot, that it will be used for other religious purposes. And I'm not really sure what those religious purposes are. I mean, if the religious purposes are bar mitzvahs and naming ceremonies, and are going to be having parties up there on a regular basis, that could be problematic because it is a large area and whatever. I mean, is there somebody who could tell me what types of uses it will be made of it, other than for the holiday?
Well, first, there was testimony with regard to the fact that A, it's seasonal, B, it would be used infrequently, C, it might be used if there's a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, a baby naming, etc. But that's the reason why we put up a 5-foot wall for privacy purposes. That's the reason why we have all lighting directed downward, nowhere near the neighbors. And we have every right to use a terrace. We're not looking for a height variance or anything like that.
I think we have a township ordinance that says 11.
11 o'clock, we already agree, we will be off of it, like anybody, like Baltusor's off at 11, like, we will do the same thing.
No amplified music?
No, we already had testimony to the fact that there would be no speakers outside on the terrace. And as to the holiday of Sukkot, yes, it is true, it is a 7-day holiday, but you just mentioned to the board, you're going to be out there eating meals, etc. I just want to put that in perspective. There's not going to be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner seated
No, I
meals out
understand.
there. Basically, after services, people will come out, get a little something in the sukkah, and then walk back out.
My grandmother was Jewish, so I know the
Okay.
deal. I know the holiday.
And by the
Lighting,
way, I
what-
would like to add to the terrace that we already had testimony that with regard to the 5-foot wall, that's being done not only for privacy for both the congregation and the neighbor, but that's the security plan height.
Oh, no, I understand. My client was grateful when the wall was raised to 5 feet, because if you're seated at a table eating, you won't even be able to see anybody, so that's great. And I know it does have a sound attenuation purpose, but there's not going to be any, like, party lighting or anything out there?
No.
Just the normal lighting?
Yes, and also, you had mentioned about the dumpster. I just wanted to make mention that the dumpster didn't move. It's in the same location it's been for all the years the synagogue has existed there.
Right.
So it's the same, and we will certainly reach out to the company that hauls, which we only have pickup once a week.
Right.
To try to ensure that they don't, come at unreasonable hours.
Right.
And in addition to that, the only time there'd be an additional pickup is if there was an affair or an event or something, and we wouldn't want to leave the garbage out, to create a smell or something for the
Your
neighbors.
pickup, because I know that unfortunately we do this with even businesses that are, there's really little control. You sign a contract and they just do it in the order of the routing. But what time has been the pickup?
Josh, do you know the hauler, the time? The time of the pickup?
Yeah, so
We could try to see if
I
they'll do it at
think-
8 o'clock.
I think that,
Sometimes it comes after the 7 o'clock. We have service at 7 o'clock, sometimes it comes after, sometimes it comes around 7 o'clock.
it can't come before because that's part of our noise things. But I think the board would strongly suggest that we figure out a way and we can have it, reasonable efforts would have to made to see if there's another alternative, whether it's another company, whether it's the town company that you can work with. The town company, maybe you can contract, we can talk to the business administrator, that if they do it, maybe they can figure it into a different route, because it could be later to buffer the residents.
By the way, the town garbage truck comes to me at 6:15 in the morning.
I'm not getting involved
I don't
in
think
that.
that's a good
This
choice.
is only for this application only, but, yeah.
And I-
So let's see what we can look to do, because that's, would be, not something we would like to have.
And I did explain to my client about the community noise control ordinance, that every town has it, so we told them, like, after 7, before 10, there's not a lot you can do except, if it's really objectionable. And I told him how the unamplified human voice isn't regulated either, so he does understand it. That's why I asked the question about whether there'd be like any, like.
Nothing outside.
Loudspeakers or anything, so
Nothing
that's
outside.
good.
Talk to us a little bit about the landscaping, where he said that it's one area doesn't have landscaping. I thought we buffered the entire thing.
I was talking about right here, but I don't know that there's a lot you can do there because it's a traffic aisle. I mean, if you could extend the height of the fence, I'm not really sure. I mean, what they did around the balance of my client's property is wonderful, and we thank you for that, we really do.
I believe your client has trees that are already planted there in that area, correct?
Some.
The whole diagonal wall has evergreens that are
Right.
double the size of the fence.
You did not tell me that.
If you go out and look, we
Right.
got pictures of that.
Very good. And then the last thing was, is the sukkah going to be, like, it's going to have a commercial use? I mean, is it going to be available for rentals?
No,
Okay.
it's just used by our congregation.
Just
7
by-
days.
just by your
7 days
congregation?
by our congregation, that's it.
Wonderful. Okay, those are the only issues I have, and want to bring them to the attention of the board, and I'm sure I did keep a list of the types of conditions you might impose on the application. I'm sure you'll cover them all when you formulate your resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Okay. The one thing that we didn't hear too is the shared driveway, how we're handling that.
Okay, with regard to the shared driveway, I had a title search done. There is no existing easement agreement, they went back to 1960. So my position, and I have spoken with the board attorney, is that it's up to the parties to see whether or not they want to have an agreement from this point forward, but that the Mountain Avenue property is not part of this application, meaning the owner of that property, and that they should not be forced into any type of an
I
agreement.
think the board would say that you would make reasonable attempts, subject to board attorney being comfortable, that you made reasonable attempts to protect both sides, to make sure that, I don't want them to come to us and say, I can't access my driveway anymore, they're not letting us there.
Well, actually, the engineer just gave testimony to the fact that we're not using that driveway. We're giving them the whole use of the driveway, and we created our buffer and our entry to our parking lot beyond that
I
driveway.
understand. I think that we would like reasonable attempts, a letter or something where Matt's comfortable, or the board attorney's comfortable that you made an effort to reach out to them, and if they don't respond, you're right, we can't force them to do anything, but a reasonable attempt, that way we're covered. I don't want, when they go to sell the house, that there's an issue in the future, and they come to the board and say, you approved this without anything. So, a reasonable attempt, subject to the board attorney's approval he can waive that through, your process.
I will address that with the board attorney, and then we will do whatever is
We'll
needed.
work through that. That was also testimony, I believe, was offered on the first day,
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
yes.
Perfect. Okay, so there are no other objector attorneys? So seeing none, let's open it up to the public. I mean, I guess come up in single file. Anyone that wishes to speak on this application for or against it, feel free to come up.
I'd like our rabbi to come first.
Hi, Chaim Marcus, Rabbi, Congregation Israel. Just a little nervous about speaking because my congregants are going to see that I could speak for less than 15 minutes in front of a pulpit here. Unless you'll sit for 15 minutes, I'll give
No,
you a
Rabbi,
no, okay.
Very short.
Look, I understand.
Make this your shortest sermon ever.
I was told, no, this isn't going to be a sermon. Just to share with the board the purpose of what we're looking for.
He needs to put his name
congregation-
on the record and his,
Oh, sorry.
Name and address.
Chaim Marcus, 3 Richland Drive, Springfield, New Jersey. Just wanted to share with the board that the congregation is really the center of religious and spiritual life for the Orthodox families in Springfield, New Jersey, of which numbers, I don't know the exact numbers, others would know the exact numbers. We have 4 to 5 daily services every day of the week. Maximum at each of those daily services, talking about 20 people. I wish there would be more. As the rabbi, try to get people to come to services more often. Saturday, from Friday night until Saturday night, we have about 7 to 8 services, depending upon the time of the year. And this expansion is really just to create a broader spiritual space. When you have 150 kids running around the social hall that's right next to the sanctuary, divided by a thin wall, during my sermon, I'm loud, but during Torah reading, sometimes the kids' voices outweigh the voice of the Torah reader. And we just want to create a proper spiritual space. That's what this is about. When I first came to Springfield 23 years ago, I had an office in the congregation. Now it's a groups room for the kids, because thank God there's been an increase just in terms of the number of kids. And we want to provide meaningful programming for them Saturday morning as well. So it was put on the record. I'd love to have an office again in the congregation. My wife would like me to have an office in the congregation, keep me out of the house a little bit. And that's really what this is about. It's about just serving the community, the Orthodox families that are here, about creating a spiritual and religious space for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name is Mayor Milgram. I live at 25 Midvale Drive. You want me to spell it?
No, there's no, okay, go ahead.
Good. I'm the head of the expansion committee of Congregation Israel. I live at 25 Midvale Drive. I go to the synagogue almost every day. I have 6 children. My 2 little ones, 2 boys, ages 2 and almost 1, and there is no space for them to come to the synagogue on Saturdays. We really have outgrown our existing facility, which is why we endeavor to do this. We appreciate the work that everybody's put into this. We've gone back and forth, but right now we really only have 2 youth rooms to accommodate, as the rabbi said, 150, which I actually think is a light number of the amount of youth that are there.
200.
200. This expansion of will accommodate the ever-growing youth community that we have, and it's really needed. So thanks for your time and hard work that I know that everybody on the board, as well as all professionals, have put in.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak on this application?
Debbie LaSalle, 351 Mountain Avenue. My questions are basically more of the tearing down of the houses. When the houses come down, have they been checked for asbestos, rodents?
That's subject to, the building department will do all those sorts of things. making
Okay.
sure there's,
Is it going to be wetted down? I'm just more concerned about dust and everything else going in there.
That's not the purview of this board.
Okay.
But I do know that the building department will ask them for a certificate. of
And I
notice
just
of
wanted to present
asbestos,
that.
of
I
Pest
appreciate
control and everything.
Everything that she's asking is done, there's a checklist of items that have to be done by the building department for a demolition. All of those things she's pointed out are part of that.
Okay.
So they'll be addressed. The wet down, obviously, if you see that and it's not being done, call the building department and they'll,
Mike, do they have to notify any of the neighbors or no, as part of that, of the surrounding neighbors? They should, right? I thought that the immediate that touch it, I thought.
again, I'm not the building department. I think there is a requirement. I don't know what it is, so I don't want to say something that's inaccurate.
You got a perfect.
I think I would indicate that we do have a demolition plan, and that we will obviously have pre-construction meetings with the town, and that we will also seek all necessary permits, and we will do everything to ensure that the neighbors are safe from whatever demolition occurs.
Also, for security, what are you putting in front of the new building and the parking lot? I know you have the boulders out and you have the heavy cement. Yeah, the balusters, bollards are, when they go up during service, if an emergency happens, who has keys to lower them?
The fire department
Okay,
and the police department.
okay. Okay, so they're, okay. And also for safety of the congregants, do you have, I know that there's a security guard outside. Is there another security guard? Or I'm just looking for more of, and the way the world is, if,
Let me say that I had asked on behalf of the board that
Okay.
the security plan is reviewed with Chief Cook. He's
Okay.
here, but Chief Cook wrote the board a letter that he is satisfied with the security plan and all the cameras and images and so, when the building
Okay.
is up, he's gonna review to make sure it's acceptable. I
Perfect.
wanna keep the security plan
Yep.
out of the public.
I just wanted to make sure that it's
No,
being
it's a good
taken-
question.
yeah.
It's a great
We
question.
appreciate that the neighbors care about our security, and it's, I
Well,
just.
it is, because it
No.
also,
It's both. It
Yeah,
works both
it
ways.
absolutely.
But I do want to add to what the board chair just said, if you didn't catch it at the prior hearing, is that I also met with the director of security for the Greater Metro West Jewish Federation, who provided us with his ideas for security. They were then shared with I met with the chief of police, as well as Captain Rachel. All that was put into a letter by the chief, which is confidential. It's a security plan that was shared
Yep.
with the board, but cannot be shared with the public for
I
obvious
don't
reasons.
expect,
right, exactly. I'm a retired police officer, so I understand.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want you to announce anything. The generator that's on top of the building, what time is it going to test?
We said to work that out. Typically, it would be
Okay.
during the day, but it would be worked out with the township engineer because it's in a residential area. They would come up with a time, like mine goes off at 10 o'clock in the morning, or
Right.
10 or 11 o'clock, depending on the time zone that move, with the daylight savings time. But they'll work that out with the township.
And we will agree to have it tested whenever it's the least, least obstructive to the neighbors.
It will not be on a Saturday or Sunday as if it's.
That's for sure. It won't be.
It will be during the week, so.
The water issue. I know that you had said that because you increased the impervious area. Are there water tanks on the property?
Mark?
Oh, we've got a stormwater plan, but go ahead, let the engineer take that one.
Yeah, sure, it's a good question. We do have a stormwater management plan and report that was submitted to the township and reviewed by Mr. Disco. They're not so much tanks, but it's what's called an underground detention basin, which there is already one there today under the existing parking area. We're proposing to essentially expand that system to mitigate the increased imperviousness.
Just so that you know, this is the stormwater plan. Very exciting reading.
But you know what? They need it. They need it. Is there parking going to be, when you build the new area and you change the driveway, is that going to be allowable to park there again once the driveway is closed up? And where's the new driveway going?
The new driveway is actually going to be further down away from the intersection
So
of
closer to
Mountain
my
and
house.
Shunpike. Well, but it's going to be
Right,
further away from
okay.
Q Drive and the intersection such that it's going to improve the traffic situation there.
And is it going to be is it still gonna be one way in?
Yes.
But 2 ways in
Yes.
now? Okay. Okay, beautiful.
And that was done to make sure that there were no new traffic problems created.
Beautiful. And I think that is basically, oh, the video screen. There's a video screen on the veranda or on the, somebody had said that the, I can't think of what we're gonna have this.
The terrace?
Yes.
No, there's no video screen. I think maybe you got confused with screening on the roof for
Okay.
the generator
Okay. I
and the
just-
air conditioning unit.
Because I thought that somebody had mentioned that maybe during one of the events you would have, okay.
No.
Perfect. That's it.
Thank you, great questions.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Any other members of the public?
Good evening, Benjamin Hoffer, 183 Milltown Road. Originally, I grew up in Springfield on Golf Oval. I'm a past president of the synagogue. I also am involved in the expansion committee. I want to start by thanking everybody for their time and their energy, their hard work to make this application progress. When I grew up in Springfield in our shul, there were very, very few children. I think there was one other child my age. When I moved back here with my my oldest child, my wife said to me, if there aren't going to be more children, we can't stay here. Thank God, as I had my second, my third, and my fourth, with each of my successive children, there's more and more children in the community. And now we've gotten to the point that the rabbi is saying there's 150 children running around because there's still another 60 children who can't come to shul because we don't have room for them. All right, we have about 208 children in shul. Only 27 of those children are high school aged. Almost all of those children are middle school, elementary school, or early childhood. We simply do not have place to bring our children. So a lot of times mothers have to stay home with their youngest children because we do not have a place to give them to watch our kids in shul. Otherwise, they're going to be making a lot of noise, and it's disruptive to the entire community. So the synagogue is an extension of each one of our homes. Every person who comes to our synagogue is an extension of our family. So this new building is really important to the health of our community. I really appreciate everybody's cooperation and just overall insight into making this great. It's really been a collaborative effort, so thank you very much to the professionals and to the board.
Any other members of the public? And Counselor, if it's from your congregation, I don't want to stop anyone from testifying or coming before this board with questions. but-
Hi, my name is Roberta Ostro. I live at 3 Shadow Lawn Drive.
She will not be stopped.
I'm
Okay.
going ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I happen to be a realtor in Springfield for over 30 years. And I just want to make a couple comments. Number one, that Congregation Israel Springfield serves a wonderful basis for the Orthodox community in Springfield. Number two, that because the congregation does not drive on Sabbath or on the holidays, that most people are looking for houses in the closest possible to the synagogue, because they walk to synagogue. And that it is a benefit to the whole city that the congregation expansion goes through, as it will help, it'll help the community. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, Counselor, I definitely, I understand everyone from the temple's excited about it, and, but I'd rather, if anyone wants to come up, I think the board doesn't want to stop them from coming up, but if there's any other members of the public that want to ask questions of the applicant, would be a better use right now. If that's okay with you?
Okay?
Good evening, everyone. Tracy Glazner, 24 Pitt Road. I just had a couple questions. First, if you could just confirm what the final number on the buffer is between my lot, which was lot 40? 16? Okay.
And that the fence will continue.
Yes, there's the 6-foot fence, which is immediately adjacent to the property line, then 16 feet of landscape.
Okay, great. And then also, if we could just talk about 18 Pitt, right next door. I know it's right now it's a residence, it's used as a resident for, I believe, a temple member.
No, it's currently the residence for our youth director, and in the past, it's been our assistant rabbi, And if your question's going to be, what is the future of 18 Pitt, we've already put testimony on that we will agree that 18 Pitt Road will remain residential. It will not be allowed to be torn down for a parking lot. It will not be a walk-through. It will not be a pass-through, a cut-through, or any kind of vehicle driveway in order to get to the synagogue.
Okay, because I know a gate was put in as a, that could open and close directly from the backyard to the property.
And we intend to keep that gate because that's the youth director's house, that's sometimes the assistant rabbi's house, and it makes sense for him or her, whoever, to be able to go through.
Right, and
that's-
whoever's living there.
Yes,
To be able to
yes.
cut through their own yard.
And not only that,
right.
but talking about a security plan, you know, for somebody who's that close to the building, who has an eye on the building because they are an employee of the building, to be able to get quickly to the building is very important, other than them having to go all the way up Pitt, come around Shumpike, and come around.
So, Counselor, I think we agreed that they were going to keep the gate. However, they were going to notify all congregants that obviously the person that lives there, family that's there, obviously can utilize that passageway to get through, but that people coming up and down Pitt, that's why they're putting in a new sidewalk all the way around, that they cannot use that house as a cut-through. And as she has indicated, there'll be restrictions to make sure that if that house ever comes down in the future, we can't stop it, but it will not be a road out to Pitt or a cut-through. It could be a playground, it could be anything they want, but if that house ever in the future does come down, it cannot be a road out to Pitt Road.
And we wouldn't have the authority to do that anyway. I mean, it would have to come before the board.
Right. Okay. All right, that was all. Yeah, those are basically just my questions. Okay.
Perfect, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And the landscaping there was also increased in height to be 8 to 10 feet tall on initial planting.
To cover that, okay, perfect. And you've reviewed and approved their newest landscaping plan, correct?
That was provided today.
The exhibit that was presented tonight, A12 or 13, yes.
Okay, perfect. Any other members of the public that wish to speak on this application? Going once, going twice? Okay, I'm going to close this matter to the public and remand it back to the board for some discussion, and if you want to do a closing argument, a closing statement. Make your closing statement first, and then the board will talk.
Okay, well, I think it's obvious that we've put on a lot of testimony with regard to this application. We've heard from all our experts, which included, obviously, an engineer, a traffic expert, an architect, a planner. Of course, you've heard testimony also from the president of the synagogue. You've heard the reasons why we need to do this project. Simply stated, we've outgrown our space. And I know that the two professionals from the municipality, both Mike Disco and Mike Mistretta, were kind enough to go to the property, to go inside and outside, to see that, in fact, we've outgrown our space. And they have been very instrumental in terms of the recommendations that they've made to the applicant, as well as the board, for, making revisions to these particular plans, which I believe I can make a statement here today, saying that after each hearing, we incorporated all of the recommendations that were asked of us with respect to the professionals from the town. And just to reiterate that point, I would like to I actually put together, I'll do it very quickly, a list. Now, I'll do it very quickly, but I think it's very important that this is a list of the modifications to the plans that we made from the point of the TRC meeting to here.
Yeah, I don't think you need that. I think it would rather you outline what are the variances. The board, when they deliberate, knows exactly what you're asking for, so we can make sure.
All right, so
I know you guys have made extensive changes. The board gave you a tremendous amount of feedback, and so did the TRC. I think that's part of the reason you don't have a tremendous amount of public with it, because we've made some great buffers, and you guys have done great strides, which is awesome. But if you could just read through the variances.
That's fine. Okay, I'll just tell you it was a list of 10 items of modifications. You got to get that in.
Do you want to submit that as part of this?
If you would like, yes, sure.
If you could, I would mark that.
Okay.
You can submit that.
Okay. So what we were seeking was preliminary and final site plan approval. We had 4 variances. The 4 variants were building coverage, lot coverage, or you call it impervious coverage, a parking variance, and I would just note that we had more parking spaces when we sought this out and then reduced them at the request of the board and the professionals. And the loading space, that we only need 1 and you're supposed to have 2. So those are the variances. With regard to the waivers, We already had testimony tonight that we eliminated 2 of them. So the only waivers that are left are the width of the sidewalk, and that was already testified to with regard to the stroller. And do we have any more left? Oh, yeah, the parking space, the aisle width.
And I'd like to remove the EV from the calculation when you ask for the variance, just to make sure, because I know that they're there, since they won't be open to the public. If the board's gonna grant the variance, it doesn't matter whether it's 47 or 51, just to make it cleaner.
Okay, we're also asking for a minor subdivision with regard to the lot line adjustment for the rear of 18 Pitt Road, which we own. And there was already testimony with regard to the fact that, you know, we are not changing the setback to be non-compliant, it would remain compliant. And then also lot consolidation, which is to take the 339 Mountain Avenue and then the 3 lots that go beyond that, which will then become the addition to the existing building and the new parking lot, and make it all one lot with one address, which I assume would remain 339 Mountain Avenue.
I'm sure our tax assessor will work that out with you.
Those are the variances and the waivers.
Perfect. So seeing not anything further, I want to open up to the board for some discussion. Mr. Canigallo, any questions, concerns, or any statements? Because
I have no questions or concerns, but I appreciate everybody's ability to interact in a civil manner. Thank you very much.
Richard? I have no question. Marissa?
Yeah, thank you, for, listening to our concerns and being very agreeable. So thank you.
Alex?
I think we have just a stronger application at the present moment, so thank you.
I echo everyone else's sentiments.
I don't see any contention, so it looks good to me. I appreciate that.
No questions or concerns, thank you.
Mr. Huber?
I love to talk.
What'd you say?
I said, I love to talk.
So do
When
I.
this first started, I was very hesitant against it. But you've done everything you could, bent over backwards to make it what we want in town, for professionals and that. I congratulate you, and you have my vote.
I appreciate that, and I just would state to that comment that we believe in being a good neighbor. And so sometimes you make a compromise that may not always be in your best interest, but in the end is in the best interest for all.
Question?
One quick question. I will make it very quick. I did not have the opportunity to be present during the first 2 presentations, but I did review the testimony. What is the mitigating way to eliminate right turns from Mountain Avenue through and behind the building and onto Milltown Road?
Wait, what?
What would
Milltown Road isn't
prevent
over
somebody
there.
from cutting off the traffic light and turning into the new parking lot?
You mean to cut the light and go through our parking lot? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like that for 50 years, so, I mean, it's,
Okay, but by doing the expansion and paving out from where the houses are being demoed, you're creating a new access point, correct?
no, we're moving our parking lot down.
Okay.
There is already an access point there, and it's basically just being shifted over a little bit.
Okay.
The circulation is exactly the same as existing.
Okay. I think you guys did a great job presenting this application, and I got to listen to all of it in one day, which is more than anybody here can possibly say.
I got to listen to all of it in years.
I do think this is an important, the synagogue is an important part of this community, and I think that the congregants shouldn't be the only ones that have a source of pride by being able to tackle this expansion. It should be everybody in the town. This I think is a benefit. I do want to say for the residents that are going to be the ones living closest to any of this work, you mentioned it's going to be 2 years in construction, and it seems like we're doing everything possible to ensure the residents are protected during that time frame, because clearly they're going to be the ones living through it.
We're saying it could be under 2 years, and the proper fencing, everything will be done to make, the most out of the concerns that the neighbors would have.
And I think the 2 years would really start from the digging of the foundation. If you go to take down the houses, that's ancillary, but really when you start the main building is when, like, the 2 years.
Right. And don't forget, weather sometimes plays a big role.
And then I'll just end with saying that I think we made great strides really providing the buffers to give the public, the residents that are surrounding the property, the most screening that we can do. And I appreciate you guys working very closely with our board engineer and board planner to accomplish that, the lighting, security plan, and everything. So for the record, so some of our board members did have some popcorn viewing and watched the video. So Alex, just reading in the record, Alex Kaiser did sign an affidavit that he read and watched the board meeting, which our board attorney saw him witness. Marissa Ruggiero, the same thing, Mr. Wishna, and Ms. Sharon Kessel. So for the record, they're eligible to vote. We'll give these to you to keep for the file. So seeing none, I think you read the variances, so I'm not going to have them reread. I think that our board engineer and board planner supported those variances as well as their testimony. Is that correct, guys? Yes. Disco?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So seeing none, do someone want to make the motion for approval?
I'll move to approve application 9-2024-F.
Roll call.
Mr. Laufer?
Conditions?
We did, okay, well, we
With
did.
conditions.
We did. So we read the things, any of the conditions that we've already talked about with starting school time, making sure the landscaping gets installed pursuant to Mr. Disco's, pre-construction meeting with you when they work that out. A performance bond will have to be issued for certain parts of the sites. I mean, I think the sidewalks, we agreed to get redone. Install the new fence with the similar like kind on, I guess it would be Lot 40 would get the new fence.
Well, we agreed that what we would do is put up a two-tone fence to match what already
Yes,
exists.
exactly. You're just
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else are some of the conditions. You're going to work with the garbage people to determine whether you can do it later, contract with someone new, the town, that'll be subject to, if you can't, you just, our town engineer will satisfy that with a letter to the board.
You said by the end of the year, we would get back to you if there was any kind of an agreement on that
On the
shared
easement.
driveway.
The lighting will be, the additional lighting that's being screened, that will be done by the end of the year, December 31st, which you've agreed to do.
That was actually the end of the year.
What?
Yeah, that was the end of the year item.
Okay.
Any conditions with respect to their reports?
Yeah, anything in the report you've already agreed to on the record already. Any member of the board? Oh. Yes, the resolution will be out. We'll make sure that the resolution is, our next meeting is October 10th, so we'll make sure that the resolution is out by the 8th or 9th. Is that was reasonable?
I would ask to review it before it, comes before the board also for any kind of a vote.
Matt has his homework cut out.
Yes.
I'm sure. Okay, any other conditions, Mr. Disco? Mr. Mistretta, that we missed?
Wait, what did he say? I didn't hear.
He wants the opportunity to look at the resolution.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Be must reading, I'm sure.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, so with all those conditions and the variances relieved, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Laufer?
Yes.
Ms. Mayo? Yes. Bless you. Committeeman Huber?
Yes.
Committeeman Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Cedarquist?
Yes.
Ms. Ruggiero?
Yes.
Mr. Cantagallo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kessel?
Yes.
And Chairman Tiger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, perfect. All right, so.
Thank you to the board
Nope, thank you, guys.
and the professionals.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak to any other matters before this board? Seeing none, I'm going to close this portion. I would entertain a motion to adjourn to October 10th, 2024.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thank you. That was great. That was great.
Quicker.